Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Getting Real with Paula. My name is Paula Alphonse, and it is a pleasure to be here with you. I don't know where you are, what you're doing, but if you can, just grab something to drink and have a seat and stay with us for a little bit. We're talking tonight with Sabine Daniel, which is to me an inspiration in many ways, but we're going to discuss it a little more. What I want you to know is the portion where Sabine is known to the Ottawa, to the sorry, is known to the industry, entertainment industry in both Ottawa and Quebec, but she's still best kept secret in some areas. So we're gonna try and have a conversation with her and learn a little more about the person behind the screen, the person, the private person that is not as public. Of course, we're going to be nice. We're not going to get into too much detail so that she no longer has anything to share because, she wants to keep a little something for herself. And we're going to start right away because Sabine is already waiting. So, hello, Sabine.
Hi, Paula. How are you?
I'm doing good. So happy to have you with us. It's a pleasure, a pleasure, a pleasure. I'm not a groupie, but sometimes in those conversations, I feel a little bit like one.
I'm a big
So
fan as well.
hope that 2021 has treated you good so far.
So far, everything is fine. I feel very blessed to have my family around me. We're healthy. Have a house. We could feed ourselves. So I think for me, it's we're rich because right now health is a hot commodity. So it's not to be underestimated.
Definitely, definitely. Thank you for reminding us all of that because we're right now, as I was telling a friend not too long ago, we're with the confinement and COVID-19. It feels like we're all into a live social experiment and we're just trying to find our way to the new reality. But we're not going to discuss that right now. What I want to maybe start with is while I was doing my research, I noticed that you have worn quite a few hats in your journey. And I'm reading out radio, TVOs, public relations, comms officer, TV producer, ambassador for Fit Spirit, and then board members, and then many more. I'm thinking, wow, does she ever sleep?
Yes,
Then
she does.
she does.
More than ever
Yes and
now.
no, because
Yes. Well,
okay. So as I was mentioning, there's Sabine has been a standing personality in the the
I'm
community in both Canada. I mean Canada in both Ottawa and Quebec City, Quebec province. You're actually moving through many cities, as far as I understand. So, what is the common thread for you in all of those jobs that you've done?
The common thread is definitely communication. I have been um, pa- I have a passion for communication since I was born. I think. People think it's only because I like talking, but I think it's a little bit broader than that. I was raised by a father that was a fanatic of of radio. So I every day when I woke up, the radio was on. When we were in Montreal, we talked about culture, we talk about history, we talk about current events, sports. So I was very well rounded. And the fact that my father had a dream to be on the radio and also did community radio, it really showcased that it is possible. And I just wanted to do it on a bigger scale. My father is not a media personality. I grew up with somebody that had a huge passion for communication, but didn't work in the field. So I made sure at a very young age to tell my parents that this is what I want to do, and yeah, kind of pushed them a little bit to put me in a specialized school in Montreal that focused on art, and that allowed me to really develop that passion to be comfortable in front of people, no matter my age, my size, my color. I went in a public school in Montreal that had a really broad broad environment for arts. Every Friday, we used to go to different events by the city, museum, theater, concerts, just to cultivate our everything that was artistic. So that really gave me an idea of what's possible in art without really having the knowledge of all. I think it really started when we moved to Ottawa after grade six. So as you know, in Quebec, after grade six, you go in high school. I did 1 year of secondaire un in a private school before going to Samuel Jeanette in Ottawa. So that's, I think in Ottawa, that's when it really started to, um, I think grade nine, that's when I realized, oh, I could make this here because the, the, the environment is so new and it's virgin. Rogers was starting, TFO was starting. So I knew there was room for me.
Good to hear. I also know that you started in the news very early. Can you
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about that and what got you hooked?
Oh, wow. Well, believe it or not, it started when I was five. My father loved a radio host, this jockey called Franchi Jarreau. And he used to like call him all the time on the radio to give him his point of view on the current event. And one day, Franchi Jarreau was doing a live interview on Saint Laurent. And so those are called remote. Now I know. And he decided he was gonna go meet Franchi Jarreau, and I wanted to go with him. And and it turned out that I was never a shy kid, so I got up to him and during the commercial les pauses, the commercial, and I said to him, "My father absolutely loves you. Can he talk on the radio with him?" And he's like, "Even better, can you talk on the radio?" So that was my first introduction to media. My father was so excited, called. You know, at that time there was no cell phones, so he went on where there was free phones from Bell, and he took his 25 cents and called the family and said, "Sabine's gonna be on the radio." So basically, I was five, I was on the radio, and I got hooked. I was like, wow, and my 5 minutes turned into a whole hour, and Francis Jarreau finished. I'll never forget that he finished the segment, the all the little segments, and saying, you're natural. You should do that for a living." And I'm like, I will do that for a living. He passed away. Never got to meet him again, but that's when I was hooked. I was hooked to see you could be yourself, and you could just talk about something that you like. So I don't know, he was testing me around. I had to do the weather, and I had to say what was going on Saint Laurent, And the fact that it was a street that I often go with my aunts to go shopping, and there's a lot of Italians, and I knew the market very well, and some of my father's coworker worked there. It was easy for me to kind of report, so I felt at home doing that. And that's when also my parents kind of took it seriously. They're like, wow, she's really comfortable. I think because you have no inhibition. And my father and my mother were liberals and very. I always say they're very bohemian. They came. My mother came when she was 21. My father came at 22. I was born when they were 23, so they were very young, and they wanted to experience the Canadian living and also what it had to offer. And when they saw that I really liked that, they started looking for stuff for me to do. And also, I was very aware uh, of, I think I was aware of image. And, when I saw Passepartout, I was like, okay, we need to figure out how I can get to Passepartout.
Love it, love it, love it. It's always interesting to find out how people get their calling in life. And five is very young. Very young, could not have even anticipated that something like this could exist. Because you know what? You never know. When God is ready for you to do something, He'll figure out a path to get you there. So really like that. Really like that. If you thinking about another question I have, you mentioned an experience that you had in your late teens that anchored who you became as an adult. Can you tell us a little more about that? As you mentioned that you had an experience in your late teens that really anchored who you became as an adult.
Okay.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Most definitely. When so I mentioned that I went to Samuel Jardin in Ottawa. I did a college degree in PR and journalism. And a couple days after graduating, I flew to Russia. I was 19, and basically going to Russia for 6 months kind of changed who I am. It gave me the pillars of who I am, and also really made me become a young woman that was very conscious of her environment, and also that her community, if you give to your community, you'll get back what you pour into it. So at 19, Canada Day, a couple days before Canada Day, I flew to Toronto. From Toronto on Canada Day, 15 Canadian, and I flew to Warsaw and Varsovie and Poland, and after to cross over to Russia. That was my first time going overseas other than the States, and going to the islands. That was my first time going to Europe as well, Eastern Europe mostly. And I went to France, I went to Italy, completely different.
Okay.
T'as entendu ma réponse?
Yes, yes, yes. And we keep switching language. What are the beautiful things
Sorry.
you went in both languages?
Yes, I do.
So it's very practical. I love the travel, and I have to say every single person should travel at least, I would say, in the early 20s, late teens, early in your journey, because it opens you to a completely different reality in the world. My parents traveled a lot, but I would say I started traveling alone later in life, and I was thinking, why didn't I do it earlier? Some things you
Yeah.
don't.
You know what? I want to add that too. My mother grew in a very poor environment, and I remember I think probably when we were 8, because Ingrid is my sister. Ingrid was 5, and she was saying she was taking the plane with all of us, and she's like, you know what? I want you guys to travel the world as much as possible because when you have kids and when you have a family, it's a little bit more difficult. It's not impossible. And I grew with a family. I grew up with a family that travels a lot. So I feel really blessed. But I think my mother and father, mostly my mother, really encouraged for us to go see the world, really. And I feel so blessed. I thought like every kid would travel as much as me. I remember the first time I took the plane alone with a stewardess. I was 8. I hated going to the States by car because it took so long, and most of her family is in the States and in some other islands like Cuba, Dominican Republic, Haiti, Brazil. We have family all over the place. But taking the car going every winter or summers in the States, taking 8 hours by car, I hated it. Getting there, I hated it. So they put me on a plane. They put me on a plane at 8 years old, and I was hooked. I was hooked. It was actually one of the things that I wanted to do. I wanted to become a stewardess. I actually did the interview, got picked, but ended up going to Russia. And you were mentioning how it Russia changed who I was. Well, I left as a kid, Ottawa. I didn't know what the world had to offer, how blessed I was in a country that offers so much to immigrants. And also, at that point, Russia was going through a change, a huge change, going from becoming they wanted to become like us, capitalism, like, and that was very interesting to see. And also at that time, I didn't know how it would affect me, but I knew it was changing me. And I had a chance to stay with a host family that had 2 kids, a 14-year-old at the time named Sasha, and Anya that was 7 or 8. And it was the best, one of the best experience of my life because the family was very similar to a Haitian family. They're very connected. They love food. They like to party. They like to live. They appreciate life. In French, they say ils sont tricotés serrés, and I felt at home immediately when I got that experience. And also, it was the first time other than Ottawa, moving to Ottawa, but it was the first time living outskirts of a big city and in a rural environment, and that was quite different for me because I've never experienced living on a farm, and that was my first and also last experience living in a farm. My family, my host father had a factory, a meat factory. They call that the meat factory is Calbasa is like I would say like hot dogs, but more sophisticated hot dogs. And Russians do like that kind of so they call it in French saucisse, and it was great. And I learned there how to work hard. I think I was always I work hard in everything I did, but over there I saw that everything is possible if you have a plan, if you're flexible and you give yourself time, and it's one of the best experience. And I think the Ignativa family really instilled in me the ethics of working hard, working with the community, working for the community, and working towards a goal that could benefit everybody. And sometimes you have to be a bit selfish. You have to work on yourself. You have to wait until the right time. And I think the 6 months that I did with them really showed me the woman I wanted to be.
Thank you. Thank you. Being 19
19, yeah.
That
Yeah, 19.
in a very, very wide world must have been a real experience. Trust me, I can only imagine some of the stairs you would have gotten.
You know what? Like, my parents were extremely scared. My mom had a, I think she didn't believe that I was gonna leave. The day I was leaving, I was actually taking a train from Ottawa to Toronto, and she was like, "Oh my God, you're gonna have so much problems over there," and she was thinking about all the racism, and I was prepared for racism because there is some racism in Canada, in the States. I was used to that. But what I didn't anticipate was the opposite of racism, where is, I would say, adoration. People just wanted to get to know me, to see if I taste like chocolate. Um, because a Russian woman is physique is very different from a black woman's physique, and there is a lot of stigma, and black women come with different stereotypes. So I think there was a lot of curiosity. So in my case, when I went there, I wasn't anticipating that. And unfortunately, I had some, people that were a little bit too curious. So I got attacked a couple of times. But I had the best host family that really protected me, and a host brother that was like very dedicated to make sure that my security um, was was preserved. And so we had, it was the first time in my life that I had to rely on other people for my security, because I didn't experience racism. I experienced like too much adoration. I couldn't walk in the street without people wanted something from me. They wanted to take either a picture, they wanted a kiss. It was weird, and I wasn't used to it. And I also didn't feel, you're 19, I didn't know my sexual power at that time either. I was getting to know who I was. I was in full mode of discovery. And I was in another country where they had seen so many movies from the States with Black women, with Black people that were completely, we were painted in a different with narrative that doesn't necessarily fit our real life. And they saw me as a real person, and working in the community, trying to speak Russian, and to be really involved in the community. So that created a little frenzy. And but it was really fun. I got to experience a lot of interviews in Russia, because of that, because there was not a lot of Black women. I've never met a Black woman when I was there. I met Black men when I was in Moscow and St. Petersburg, because I was in a small town called Slavsk. Slavsk had 5,000 citizens, and sometimes we would go outside of the city to, talk about the program, and do some volunteer works, because every Friday we had to give a full day. All the Canadians and Russian that were chosen for the program, we would give some of our time to a special project in the city, or, like,
Hey, thank you for sharing this with us. I understand that this experience has really changed who you are and has maybe helped you in figuring out your work in the volunteer sector and some of those activities that you've taken afterwards. But before we talk about this, I'd like to maybe call on you about a term I've heard you use about yourself, which is hybrid. Can you define for us what it means to you?
yes, I'm a hybrid. I think a lot of people are hybrid. half Dominican, half Haitian. So my grandfather is Dominican. When we grew up, we had a chance to learn Spanish, to spend time with him before his death. So I know a lot about the Dominican culture. I mean, not look like, but there's a lot of Dominican that looks like me and have the you know the mixage, the mix. And I feel one of the things my grandfather instilled in us is that Haiti was Haiti and Dominican Republic was one island. It was called Hispaniola. So we're all the same. So basically, he didn't want to separate us. My mother married a Haitian. We grew up as Haitian kids. We are very aware of our Dominican roots. It's more apparent when we're in the States just because we do speak Spanish with the family. We interact with our family from both sides, and we do cultivate and navigate in those two worlds. And also as a Franco-Ontarian that was born in Quebec, raised in Ontario, and two, I believe that I can't separate one of the other, and that's why I call myself a hybrid, because as a hybrid, I navigate in those two provinces, four cultures, I would say. And also the fact that, I speak those languages. Um, Hybrid is a reality of being an immigrant. Hybrid is a reality of being from multiple heritage. I think everybody is a multiple um, um, base of multiple heritage. I'm so passionate of being a hybrid that I created a show called ADN, and ADN is all about what's in your DNA. Your DNA. In my DNA, I was able to find Filipino, Spanish, German, French, and all the African countries that were in Haiti, Benin, Togo, Cameroon. Um, we are a mutt. Uh, we are a hybrid of many cultures, many languages, and that's why we're so complex, and also we're also different and unique. So that's why I consider myself a hybrid.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Um, this is the sense where I'm thinking when you were talking about the term hybrid. Uh, most immigrants live that reality.
Mm-hmm.
Most immigrants come in and they have to figure out a way to navigate both cultures, to navigate the language, to navigate the realities that no longer feel as though I know for sure which way to go at any opportunity. So it's huge, and that's another reason why I say keep traveling. Send your kids, put
Oh
your
yeah.
let them travel, experience things, so it's less of a shock afterwards when I meet people from other culture.
Yes. And I want to add something to this. I feel that we're more alike when we travel, when we understand the world, than different. My sister is an avid traveler. Right now, she's not having the time of her life. But we realize as we were blessed, we started traveling very young. We realized not only that we have a lot more in common, but our food sometimes is very similar. Our language, the roots of some words are all connected with our stories. And
Mhm.
when we when we're talking Creole, there's a lot of English in Creole, there's a lot of Spanish in Creole. So the influence comes from somewhere. And to know ourselves is to know our story. And to travel, you'll better understand sometimes our fear, sometimes our roots, sometimes our cooking, sometimes our grandparents. So For me, I always have a little, and I know I talked to you about that. Paula, my grandmother had a thing for Spanish men, and it's so funny because um, in her family, a lot of people are married to other culture, and we always have this saying that we attract who we are, and a lot of my cousin, whether it's female or male, are married to other cultures, and we're attracting people that are in your DNA. So I feel that those barriers, if we stick with the color of our skin, and we're never gonna break racism. We need to go deeper. We need to understand who we are and where we're going to know where we're going. And that is something that I try to reflect in my everyday by being very inclusive, and also and in the shows that I put together, knowing that even my staff has to represent all the different and diversity that I want to showcase, whether it's behind the scene or on screen.
Thank you. We say thank you for the diversity, the inclusion, and the equity, because trust me, we need all of that in every environment, be it entertainment or else. While we're talking about entertainment, I want to ask you, you've been in that industry for quite a bit of time. Don't want to age you, but we're talking decades because you started at 5. Let's remember that.
Well, yeah, but I would say I have solid 15 years in the 15 years. I don't want to say like I started at 5, but not really. It was like, I got hooked at 5, but when it really started when we moved to Ottawa, I think around 15 years old, I started doing stuff on the radio, but it was very community based. My big break was the last year of high school when I became a reporter for Ontario for TFO. That was a big break. That was like I'll never forget that summer I saw the ad on TV. I was like, Mom, I need you to buy me a camera so I could shoot myself, so I could practice. Future Shop had just opened. It doesn't even exist anymore, but I remember Future Shop had just opened next to my house. Now it's a gym. It's so funny. And I said to my mom, if I don't win the contest, I'll give you the money back. And it was $1,500, $1,500. And love dearly my mother. I love her because she didn't hesitate. She's like, okay, I'm gonna put it on my credit card. You better win that thing. And I did win. My my cousin, it's so funny. My cousin from Florida, Cassandra was there. She was 14 at the time, and I'm like, you're gonna shoot me like Much Music and MTV. So we kept on practicing every day. I would go on Parliament Hill downtown to make videos, to make it fun, to make it to practice, to be comfortable in front of the camera. I remember that summer like it was yesterday because my cousin had cramps in her arm. And that's when I really, really started getting the hang of like, okay, when you're on cam, this is how you gotta act. That's how you gotta, and understanding my body, my mimics, my face, because we all have things that work for our in our advantage. In my case, it was my smile. I knew that from when I was 15. And I also worked with a guy. When I won the contest, we were guided by a winner from La Course Autour du Monde. It was a big contest at Radio-Canada. And TFO had hired somebody to take care of all the people that represented different parts of Ontario. And since I represented Ottawa, I got training from him, and he was amazing. A lot of the things I learned, I still apply them today. A big shout out to him, Mario Bonenfant, and that was really a big deal for me because I was getting paid, and I was on TV every month on a big broadcast talking about how being a young kid from Ottawa, what's there to do to make Ottawa really fun, and all those things got me the attention of other networks, and also allowed me um, to go to L'Aspect Collégial in two programs because at the time there were two separate programs. But because my parents were not too fun with the fact that, journalism, there was not a lot of Black people, very few people on TV. They wanted me to have something more secure, and public relation was a great field to go because it was blowing up at that time. It was guaranteed that you would have a job after. So I did both. And also, I was very young. At 17, I still lived at home. So I did both programs and graduated from both programs and ended up going to Russia after that.
Hmm. If I was to ask you three words that would define how you describe yourself with respect to the entertainment industry, what would be those words and why?
Avant garde, um, solution driven, and it will be two words. Equity and diversity, I think. So yeah.
So what I'm hearing, and it's interesting because it covers almost everything you've mentioned so far. It's about representation. It's about ensuring that we bring something that is a solution to what people want to know about, what people are trying to solve. So it and technically, when I hear all of your journey, avant-garde makes total sense because you didn't follow the what I would say the script
Yeah.
in becoming who you had to become.
Well, I love the way you put that. What I would say, I had no script. I what I had is a dream, great parents. Also, funny enough, and you know what, I was thinking about our interview, and I was like, you know what? I've seen people, Black people, doing it in TV. My godmother is one of the first Black women in TV in Quebec. She did Le Petit Journal, and I remember like after seeing Passepartout, Doualé, that was a marionette. I forgot a puppet. I'm like, I could be on TV, but she wasn't a real person. The second person I saw it was my godmother, and my godmother had gone in communication. So I remember when she saw that I wanted, she heard me on the radio. She's like, you could do that, and I'm like, oh, I know I could do that. And when I saw her on TV, I was like, that's my godmother. And the fact that I knew her, I had pictures with her. She came and see me, and I came to visit her. It made it very clear that it's achievable. And I think it's one of the things I'd like to say to people. Um, a lot of time people are like, when I would share my dream in high school, people didn't believe me. I was overweight. I was, everything that you don't see on TV. Slightly overweight, dark skin. I would wear my hair natural most of the time when I was in high school. Not the picture perfect that you see on TV. What I had, I knew. It's really weird to say, it was just a matter of time. I knew that is like, I don't even know how to explain it. It was so I was so sure about myself. I don't want to say that I think myself all of that. I just knew that was my passion. That in my high school album last year, the question was, the next time you see me, where will you be? I'm like, next time you'll see me on TV. You'll be watching me on TV. Noir sur blanc. I was 17. It's interesting to read that because in my in all my high school agendas had Ricky Lake, Oprah, all the different Donahue, all the people that I like, Tyra Banks. I didn't even know it's called vision board. I've always done that. So anybody that's listening, I think you got to start with yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, nobody's going to believe you. And I think obviously I surprised a couple people. I wasn't there to show you. I was there. I wanted to be in that space, to know, to be creative. I knew with something that, that it wouldn't be a job to me. If I knew how to get there, I'll just work my ass off because I'm born with workers. My grandmother has been a great model of if you work hard, you'll get what you want out of life. Same as my mother. So I had no that what I had difficulty with, I had no script. I didn't know, like, I tried everything. That's why I think people in high school, I had two things that I loved. Swimming. I did synchronized swimming, and that gave me a lot of discipline. And I did a lot of volunteer work in radio and TV. Everything that got me closer to being on TV, I did. Everything that I got me to practice. And I remember reading something. Um, it said, everything that you could do that gets you closer to your goal, you do it until you master it, or that it brings you to another level. So that's what I did. And I knew that a lot of my friends would be talking on the phone. I did that too, don't get me wrong. I did talk on the phone, hang out with my friends, but I made sure to volunteer. And my strategy was, when I get to La Cité Collégiale, how will I differ if I had to showcase everything, why they need to take me? Because journalism, one of the things that I knew from the jump was that journalism, communication were all programs that didn't take a lot of people. So I had to make sure that, I came prepared, I came with experience, I've done my homework. And knowing also that I speak French, which is the margin gets a little bit smaller. I didn't want to do it in English. I wanted to continue in French. That's my mother tongue. That's a language that I love too. No offense to English, but I think English had diversity already. Um, I also wanted to do it in Quebec. That was a big goal, and also in Ontario. And what my mother said at, like, I think I was 17 or 18, she's like, you know what? When she started understanding a little bit, like, where I'm going, because I was trying so many things, she couldn't keep up with me either, but she was supporting me every way she could financially. I didn't work when I was in high school, so she would buy my clothes for TV, and save up the money I would do when I had little contracts here and there, bring me to auditions because I had a lot of auditions in Montreal. But I think what really helped is trying different things, putting yourself in a space. I find that when you're young and naive, it's sometimes the best tool because you're unaware you're unaware of the danger, so you just try. And I was saying that it's that same openness to the world that got me to Russia when I was 19. I think maybe 2 years after I wouldn't have gone because I would have been aware of, like, oh, I have to finish university, I have to have money, all of those things. And I realized as I got older, we're our own barriers. We have our own barriers. We stop ourselves to doing things that if we were young, we would have done instinctively. We would have done it immediately. We would find solution. And also, biggest thing I've learned, I think, so far this year, and I'm trying to reapply in my life, is that when we're young, we immediately know what we love.
Yeah.
When we're attracted to something, when a kid is attracted to something, they don't think, oh, should I go towards it? They just go towards it. And I feel as we get older, we stop doing that. We're like, no, there's danger, there's that. Obviously, I'm not saying to just run towards everything that you want, but I think there's a reality that if you've always been attracted to something, or you know, a passion, and you've never tried, you're not being true to yourself. You're not being your authentic self, and you're potentially excluding something that could bring you so much joy, and which is gonna bring me to when I stopped doing TV, because at one point, we all grew up, we all have bills, we all have things to we want to do, and around my mid 20s, I decided, you know what, TV is I've done TV, and it's cool and everything. It's not consistent. In Ottawa, it's a lot. It's contract based. Not even in Ottawa, but it's a business where you won't have necessarily a steady job if you have to be in a network and you have to be a big name. So I decided to go into public relations. So my parents were not that, they were good by telling me to go in PR. PR is very similar to journalism and communication, but it's behind the scene is how you make sure the image of a corporation is always right. Make sure there's no crisis. When there's a crisis, how do you find solution? A little Shonda Rhimes has a show about it, but um, I decided to go into PR, and
So, public relations, and I understand that you've done public relations for quite a few years while doing some contracts here and there. And I do appreciate that, as you mentioned, the public relations aspect is the one where you have a steady income. Most of what you do in the entertainment industry is contracts over contracts over contracts. And in between, there's lag time. So I might not have any money coming in. While if I have a steady job and I do contract on the side, then it switches the balance a little, and I can have a better, how could I say, a better handle on my finances. But it's a difficult journey, and I do understand. I do appreciate that it must not have been felt so very secure. So having multiple options in your pocket actually helps you get to that best options. So I suspect that might have been the how could I say, what kept you going and still pursuing that dream and achieving what I have set my mind to. Not always obvious. Not always obvious. I have to say, though I'm in a different generation than yours, I do appreciate that I've had to at times as well stop myself from being a barrier to myself, from holding back on things that you could do, but that feel a little scary. So yeah, I get you. We're definitely following you on that. If I can, I was gonna ask you to talk a little about your two things I guess I wanted to ask you about is that show you've done last fall. You know which one I'm talking about, which was Célibataires. But and you shared quite a bit of information about you, about your family, about your struggles and things like that. How did it feel like?
oh my
How,
god, a
tell us.
loaded question.
I know. Sorry, but we still want to hear.
Yeah, I know. Um, so we're talking of getting out, being a barrier to yourself. I think Célibataire would really challenge me to be um, authentic, one, and also to be myself on TV. Like, when you're a TV host, a reporter, a producer, you wear a different hat, you have a different role, you have a mask on, you have to make sure you look good, you're being good, you bring a team together. Célibataire à bout was completely different. It was about five girls being single and sharing their life and their dating life with the world during that pandemic. Crazy, crazy and crazy. So just to put everybody in context, because not everybody know my private life, but before being in Célibataire à Bout, I was in school. Believe it or not, I was in school. I got a bursary to go back in school to really. Um, I got a bursary from Netflix. Netflix believe in me to become the next Shonda Rhimes in Canada, probably. But the idea was to go back to school to really intensive school to become to create content for Canada, whether it's in English or in French. And as you know, I want to bring more diversity, more inclusion on TV, whether it's in front of the lens or behind the lens. So I went back to school for 6 months. It was an intensive course. I had no life, no dating life. And when I finished, I was like, oh, I'm getting back in the game. And unfortunately, the pandemic started. While I was in school, a friend of mine approached me, told me his friend was working on a new show called Célibataire à Bout. It was a spin-off of Mère à Bout, which was a reality show about mothers. And he's like, you're a host, you have a great personality. I think you would be a great add-on to the show. I was like, no, I'm not going to share my dating life. And I had none at that point. And when the pandemic hit, so I finished on February 27. I end up going for a short little travel in the States to celebrate my aunt's birthday, 60th birthday. And when I returned, the pandemic was in full swing. March 12, I was in Montreal, and I was talking to a friend of mine, and I was like, you know what? If we don't want to be single anymore, we need to be out and about, like I would say, and dating and meeting new people. And the pandemic happened, and I wanted to get out of the box, and I was like, you know what? Called, text my friend who mentioned that show, went on their website, applied. That was it. I applied, didn't think about it anymore. It actually felt good to just try something new, and I had no expectation. 4 days later, got a call from the casting director saying that, you know what, you picked the girls already, 10 girls already, but I really love your profile. I love the fact that, you are already on TV and you have a great personality. And most of all, you are 42 years old. And that was like, wow. Usually on TV, it's like they want the young girl and everything. And I did, we had a really great conversation with the casting director, and I was like, you know what? I don't want to come across as the only the black girl, but I want
To mention that should you want to go and check the show, it is one to follow. It's when you're thinking about reality of dating, not just during the pandemic, but as a single adult, once you pass the age of 20, 25, I would say what past the age of 25, and you're trying to figure out what's the next step. How do I get back into dating? Because the way we operate nowadays is just work, 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 and then crash at home, get back up the next day, work, 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 and then we go for this for quite a bit of time. And with the pandemic on top of everything, then you're home. There's no social, there's no interaction with social distancing. Every single time you meet someone new could be, oops, Am I going to get something? And we're no longer just talking about STDs. We're talking about life-threatening disease. So it was a timing. It was all about timing, and I appreciate Sabine for letting us letting us a little bit, giving us a little bit information on that aspect. It is not going to be pretty all the time, and I know we are still in the pandemic, and there'll be more and more and more things we need to reassess, refocus, decide as to what does my future look like? What are those goals that I'm trying to accomplish, and how do I get there? So taking a chance now on certain things. You still have to follow the guidelines from the public health, but you still want to stretch yourself. Take the time to learn something new. Take the time to stretch in a different, in your perspective, in different approaches. And the beauty we have right now is that there's so many things we can do online. So you don't always have to be outside and feel as though I might be getting a ticket for different things, but then at the same time, I can try things out in a safe environment and figure out what the next step is. So as we keep going, I am so very aware of the time. This has been a really, really, really great conversation. And I wish we could stay forever, but I also want to be respectful of all of you and your time and your approaches. So thank you for being here. Thank you for checking back with us. And we're looking forward to many, many more conversations with you guys in the future. Thank you. Have a great day.